we never actually put ourselves in the picture. We only were the container in the setting. So I think it was more of a conscious awareness of not doing it that allowed it to happen. For most people, I think, just default to be the other way.
The quality of the people are so much better humans than we are as people. So we can't even be leaders if we wanted to be now. It'd be impossible.
So for you guys, what does it mean to have a successful community? Or what is a successful community? How do you define that?
Never thought about it like that. It evolved. It didn't. It's not like I tell everybody, it's revisionist visioning. Like we never had a vision coming in of a community.
What was the vision? Like how did it?
We wanted to, I had exited a company and Hollis had too. And then I used to drink a lot on my other card. And my wife knows I drink and everything. But then when Hollis and I were going out, because he had just left his, I left mine, and we'd go out drinking. And I had to use my personal card. And my wife knows I drink, but Jesus Christ. And I was like, so Hollis, I said, we need to do a company fast. I need a card because I can't have her seeing these fucking bar tabs. And so it was really the shared credit card. It was the first reason we started something together. I don't even know.
I mean, I think when we started that was to do a consulting gig. Yeah. And so then we had an LLC and a card so we could, because we were both like done with we met for like almost a decade going to events together, even though we had completely separate companies. But one thing that was in common is we went to lots of events and we hated the same stuff and liked the same stuff. So we were good buddies at events, even though we weren't there for the same financial reasons. When we both moved to Boulder, we found ourselves brainstorming what to do next, constantly at the same bar, little restaurant thing, having dinner every night.
Ramble.
And we ended up getting a consulting gig together because we needed to do something. And so we created a ridiculous name of a company. It was the first funny thing we came up with. It was Baby Bathwater, which was a term we had used internally. We did that. But what really did happen is Michael's right. It's a revisionist vision. It's like we sponsored this event because we met this lady in town. Then we were like, hey, we don't really like this. And we just brought a bunch of people here. Let's throw another party. So we each put in, I think, like 10 grand or something and rented this bar and a bus and got a bunch of people together. And that was sort of the start. And we just kept revising and listening to people and, reforming there.
Yeah, Hollis had the Utah Connect, right? Because of his investment. So we had this place that nobody else was going to, which is like, wow. He somehow finagled us going there. This is before they allowed people to go. We had this thing. And then we were like, fuck it. If we're going to do it, let's do it differently. And the big talk, our biggest complaint about other events and masterminds, I was part of the bigger, all those shit. We had joined all those. Again, there's baby in them. Every event, every mastermind, there's something. You always meet somebody cool. And there's always something you learn. But the Bathwater is like, what is all the bullshit? And it was like all the status games and just in the boring Marriotts. And even if it was a nice place, you were stuck in a room. And then I wouldn't want to share my best stuff with people I didn't like. Or if they were doing shady business, why would I share my strategy and help somebody scam people? So I would normally not help people with these things. I wouldn't share my stuff. Why would I want to share with you people?
I think it was a bit chaotic of us just talking a lot and then picking little lanes, right? Like one thing is the echo chamber of circle jerking. We hated at masterminds with everybody's in the same industry, swapping each other's email list things. Like, let's get lots of different industries, but similar level of people. And I think that'll help people be more helpful learning from people. That was like one idea. The other one was also reducing the status. I can say at the beginning, the hardest thing for me, and I'm sure it was for Michael too, was calling people who get paid to go to events and tell them they got to pay to come to an event. Like whole first year was being like, well, if you want to be around beers, this is how this is going to work. And it was like the biggest uphill battle for like a year straight.
Yeah. But the big thing is we wanted to be the first person out. So the big problem though of all of them was you could get in if you were doing this 8 figures or all the applications were how much money, this or that. And we were like, we don't give a fuck about any of that. Who are you? Because the theory was that people would help you if they liked you and they wouldn't if they didn't. And if you were nice and you were not scammy, that people would start to help each other. Because that's what always stopped me from helping people. I think Hollis as well. So let's vet the person, not the company. And let's vet who they are, not how rich they are. And we're not going to allow that. And then at the event, that's why it's all inclusive, is give no way to show status. And that way that, you go to these masterminds. I remember when I first went to my first event, I had to stay at my aunt's house because I couldn't afford the hotel. And I didn't want to go to the bar because I couldn't afford it. And I hid a bottle of whiskey in the bushes outside. And I would get a soda water and go outside and pour it because the only way I could hang out at the bar. was like, fuck that. So if anybody's going to be at our thing, there's no way. That's why everything's free.
You always had that one guy who's renting the penthouse and only inviting people up who have certain badges and things like that. That always just felt sort of like, it was like we kept saying it, like high school never ended. People are still playing these social games.
Like, where's the real party at? So you're like left out, right? So if you're not a big deal and you go to any other mastermind, there's even like the VIP one, there's like 5 other people going out that are the real big deals, right? Fuck. And so it's like, fuck them. We're not going to give them any opportunity. There's no way to do that here. So that was kind of the initial idea. It wasn't a community. It's like, let's throw a great event. It wasn't about a community. And the event happened, and then people, and then we
a great point actually to your original question was, what's a successful community? We didn't intend to start a community. When we started, we liked going to events that lit us up and talking to fun people, and wanted to get rid of sort of some of the stuff that we felt was BS and do that. It evolved into a community when we realized an event business model was terrible. We were losing money left and right. Like, there's one other thing that I also knew. Having a business that you sold something to entrepreneurs, they know how it works. And a lot of people always try to say, like, we're doing this for this charitable reason or this and that. And you look at the ticket prices and all the things, and you're like, no, you're doing it to make money. Like, but you come to our event, you would see how much we're spending and how it all happened. That it was clearly they were betting on some future that we don't know what it is yet, because it was sort of clear that we were in it with them and we wanted to be there too. I fainted standing up at the first floor because I was hanging out too hard with everybody and trying to run the event.
It was insane. Yeah.
That's funny. You're sort of like almost starting with like, you wanted to create a different event for yourself because you didn't like the ones. And the one point I actually mentioned that was interesting was like someone renting out the hotel suite. Because I've been to an event, someone did that. I didn't realize actually till you said that how it is sort of weird because, not everyone was invited.
Yeah,
I remember the suite you're talking about. I came to it.
They always said, that's a tactic used by douchebags. Anyway, I can't take it. So, and other things about now revisionists is we were careful about the people. So we actually kicked out a lot of big deals for the reasons that we didn't have rules like the beginning like we do now, but if people were assholes or they were status monkeys or they were weird or mean to our shuttle drivers, like little things, we wouldn't invite them back. And we didn't invite back a lot of people who were way higher status than the people we did. So we stuck to our guns that way. Because if we're going to be about the people, it has to be, and that's what I think over the years, because it took 4 years to create our actually membership. It was that I think did it. And I don't think we're going to create a community, but it was the getting rid of that and not allowing that behavior that we actually did and lost a lot of potential money and potential people, because those people, pretty big influencers that we didn't allow back. And they could move tickets, but they would have ruined it, and their people would have ruined it. So more slogging through the regular people. And then what happened is a lot of the regular people actually are doing better financially than those people anyway. You find out a lot.
They're always more competent business people and more useful to other members when they chat. Yeah. Where at the beginning, I can tell you when we were scrounging and, paying the next event deposit off the losses of the one before and all those things, that when someone who's a recognizable name comes, you pop into the old method, you're like, oh, that'll help people sign up because they'll know that X name is coming or whatever. But if you look now over 6+ years, whatever we've been doing it, almost none of the names are recognizable. And that's taken time to get used to that's a differentiating factor.
The irony, if you look at their financials are better than those people. So that's really what's interesting, is that all the no names actually do better than the names. So we've learned, we kind of knew that, but now we actually know it. And that's kind of fun to watch. And then it's kind of fun not to need those people or want them unless they're actually super nice and humble. Like there are those people with names, like you see them in the group, that are super fucking nice and humble. And they're great, but not that many.
Yeah, it reminds me of that book Outsiders about CEOs, where people who you think would be great CEOs aren't and different. Can you guys talk about sort of so you started as an events thing. At what point did you start seeing it becoming the community, or at what point did it become intentional, or was it not?
What? That was when we got Cynthia. So we were ragtag, and Cynthia came on, and she's pro. We're not. I mean, you should have seen. I don't know if you came before. I don't know if you were pre-Cynthia or post-Cynthia, but
I came 3 years ago the first time.
I think she was just there, and we were good. And the events were crazy good, and blah blah blah. But it was also like, are you in on the shit show? So they're great, but there was also a beautiful disorganization. we couldn't have handled a community without somebody like her. And all of a sudden it got pro. And
you
then there's
can't see a vision of things that you want to do until you can do the things you're already doing.
Right.
So we were barely getting done the things that we were committed to doing. But as soon as those just started happening and we had a team, like, there was a point, me and Michael both were not able to even take a single dollar out of it. The first 2 years, we had coaching clients on the side. And by the way, we both despise coaching. And there was a point where like, oh my gosh, this is working now. Could we go full time and hire some people? And once we had like a small team, we got this little circle house that had no right angles in the whole house up on top of this mountain. And we were there for days on end. It was like very startup mode. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden, there was like a product that we knew if I got off the phone and this person was great, the handoff would happen and they were going to get their information. Content was going to be scheduled. Their rooming was going to be done. It wasn't ragtag anymore. Mm-hmm. And then we were able to open our eyes and go, what else can we do now?
I think it was... Yeah, because it was John Rose. Because remember, John Rose was OG. He loves us, and he had the financial company. He's like, you guys just keep losing money. Like this is never going to work. You guys. So he advised it. We kind of modeled it with John, and then it's like 30 people the first time. And
I actually have a picture from that meeting with him at their office in the accounting office, and being like, a membership model would be much more stable for you, because me and Michael also running ourselves ragged because we would do an interview call for every single person, right?
Right.
So luckily, most people returned. Like our return rate's really, really strong, but we wanted to keep growing in size. So we had to do those calls for every event. And it's like, if you have a membership and then you just say they can come to things in the future and you just send an email and they can sign up, their lives are going to get easier. We always did everything the hard way first until someone smarter in the group told us what to do.
We're not great business modelers, and I wouldn't put that as our skill set. So we have a lot of, what's funny is like
we can talk about them really well because we have all these people in the group we talk to all the time. But when it comes to our own execution, we almost, I think, have a little programming that the harder way is the uphill both ways in the snow is the right way to do it.
It seems like every year we get one or two new cheerleaders that are smarter than us that join the group who see like something we don't. And actually, like, we didn't take it that, we wanted to have a great time, but it started meaning stuff to people. And these kind of big deal people would be like, this means everything to me. And we're like, whoa. And then they'd have ideas for us and they're way more sophisticated, and then we'd listen to them. So almost everything came from a friend or a member who had a better idea for us, who's like, no, you don't realize what you have, and kind of them motivating us. So it's almost been driven by one or two people every year who come into our life who see something we don't. And then they're smart, and then we take their suggestions and then they help us.
Can you share some examples of those? Like, let's years?
John Rose.
Real quick, that we could do that, but like a differentiator from other groups is we've potentially tried not to be like the gurus of the group, right?
No, right.
Where most relationships and these things is here's the guru, and he tells you what's going on. We're just like, we're trying to get done what everybody wants to get done. You guys tell us, and we'll listen, and we'll try to figure it out. So like the feedback loop between the organizers and the people who are part of it is very different than the normal feedback loop, which is like a one-way street.
Yeah. Well, very few big ideas we've done are ours. They come from the group.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Actually, I was talking to a friend of mine about, because I'm in the process of starting a community for creators, and I was talking to her about what makes a community, right? And she said something really interesting. I was like, how do you define a success in the community? Because you see right now, there's a lot of like marketers that start community Facebook groups, which is basically them talking every day.
Right, that's not
people, and there's no one else posting. And like her insight was, community is actually about the number of connections that happen outside of you between members. Yeah. And I thought that was interesting. So can you talk more about that, which is like not being the faces of it or trying not to be, and how do you sort of encourage that within the group and making sure people connect and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is just making that a rule that you go by. Most people don't take the time to acknowledge that, because they think when people are buying a ticket or investing in the community, they want to hear from them. But we realize that we're very clear about that, and we check ourselves with it. When we go to design the experience, we pull up we have a huge meeting with the whole team. We used to print everybody's faces up and put them all over the wall, and like figure out what their skill sets are and be like, oh, the content's going to be created from these people. These people need to feed each other. We never actually put ourselves in the picture. We only were the container in the setting. So I think it was more a conscious awareness of not doing it that allowed it to happen. For most people, I think, just default to the other way.
It's also about who you get. because we were also curating, as it evolved, like we realized we're not a great place for introverts. We told people, if you're an introvert, probably not good for you unless you know somebody. So the people are so gregarious, and almost everybody who's in, they know how to make friends. And the people who don't, they're out fast. So the kind of people you get is really it. It's not the little thing. We might, we make intros, we do blah, blah, blah. But it's not as much this technique about getting people to talk to each other. It's about the type of people in there and the variety and the fact that they're all going to dig each other and that they're extroverted. It's the people,
the big thing is
not the technique.
The vetting process led to it versus the reverse where, the typical model would be pick your keynote speakers and then the people who want to hear them and worship them or whatever are going to come.
Right.
Let's see how many people we get signed up to these interview referrals, and then let's build it out after we know who's coming.
Yeah. You see on the site, we don't put the people sharing content. We don't even call them speakers. We don't put that onto like a week before. I don't want people coming for that.
Because we don't know. Well, people on the phone are like, well, who's speaking? I'm like, well, I don't know until I know it's coming.
Yeah.
We don't want them on there. But yeah, the way that you said it, because it is a community that way. You can't have a community if they rely on you. We're the rules, and we decide who comes to the party. But if you have a party and you go to people's parties and then they're like, or somebody's wedding and they're in front all the time, that's not it.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming for that shit. They're coming for each other, as long as you know it. And then we have our good friends within the group, and then we're not best friends with everybody in the group, but we don't pretend to be.
Well, that's a good memory. I just remembered was I think it was the 4th or 5th event
watching people
when we snuck back to our condo, and it went on until like hours and hours after we left. Like we did it. They love each other enough that they aren't looking around to see if the organizers ask them what
it was like event 4 where we could leave and nobody knew we were gone. So it could be 9:00 at night. We could leave and nobody would even say, "Where's Michael and Hollis?" Like that was when we won. Or we just like go watch. We go like up on a hill and watch everybody and just watch everybody. And we're like, look, they're talking their fucking faces off, and nobody's looking around for us. They don't need us. That's not why they're here. And that was the win.
And the technique thing you mentioned is funny too, because there's other events where like they have all of these games and stuff to get people to talk. But I think what you're doing more is like get the right people in, treat them as adults, and let them do that.
Yeah, people don't want that shit.
Yeah. So switching gears a bit, like going a few steps back. Let's talk about sort of the process by which people come into Baby Bathwater. Because I remember last year you were in Austin, Michael, and I was talking to you, and I'm like, yeah, like how's it going? You're like, I hate this. I've been on the phone for 6 hours every day talking to people. So sort of like, can you talk about that process and how you ensure the people are good and sort of like what you look for?
It's so gut feel. I mean,
there is no insurance or guarantee.
No,
but we've gotten better at it. I'd say there's 2 things. They either come from online or referral, but 99% come from a referral. The online ones we kind of get to when we can, but because the referral method has evolved now, obviously at the beginning we were cold calling people we liked that we'd met through our decade of conference philandering and LobbyCon. But like, the referral does make it right. Like if someone's been to an event, they met people, they usually have 1 or 2 friends. They're like, oh my gosh, they're going to love the people here and they're going to get a lot out of it. And you get on a phone call and it's either 5 minutes or it's 90 minutes. And you're like excited and energized by it, or you're not. And it's really, honestly, it's just, we explain what it is. I ask them what they're doing and it turns into something great. And normally I have like immediately a few connections I can make or something real to do after it. If there's nothing real to do after the call, the event probably isn't going to work. But if I'm like, oh, I got a connection to these 2 members and this idea, I want to talk to you more about that. Then that's what's going to happen in that room too.
It's so gut feel. They have to talk to Hollis is right. So if I'm on the phone, even if I'm a referral and it's 5 minutes, nothing's happening, I'll just be like, yeah, and it's over. And then but if I'm on the phone and it's 90 minutes later and I've lost track of time and I'm laughing and shit, and we've already done our little background stuff. So again, we don't care if you're rich or poor. So we're not looking at your income. Just make sure you're not like doing some weird shit. It's all that matters. And you just lost track of time. The conversation was so good. I just assume they're going to be like that with everybody. And it generally is. So it's really just, did the conversation flow? Was I having a good time? Were they interesting? Did they not show off? Like you ask them about themselves. If they give you this show-offy shit, it's over. But if they're humble.
Well, I really look for the self-deprecating a little bit because that seems to be a good little theme that kind of plays for the right people. But my goal is that they come, they're going to get a lot of value and feel like they won. If it's forced, then I'm going to have to deal with the problem later too of them not being happy about it, because it isn't for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I have learned from being a part of other community groups and stuff. Everyone wants to know, what's the system? What is the list of Google Sheet questions you ask? I'm like, it doesn't exist. It's everything that is the way we've done this. It has been a revisionist vision of chaos.
Well, the goal remember the beginning was, we can't promise it, but our goal was not one bad conversation. So I'm there imagining when I'm talking to somebody, if they're sitting next to so-and-so, will there be a good combo? So it's a lot about that. It's social skills.
All we used to say when we first started, we're like, they're not going to sit next to anyone at dinner who's going to, be a bad conversation you want to move from. That was like the only measurable ROI goal we were.
What was our tagline like 5 years ago? It's conversation so good you need a cigarette after. So we were looking for like that. And so that's really the betting. It's just, but it's all gut. And then I get half, Hollis gets half, depending on the referral. And so we also are different people. And so it's also a variety. So you get kind of the people I jive with really well and Hollis. And usually there's a nice overlap. So it's not all my judgment, not all Hollis's. And generally the blend is really cool.
And how many calls would you say you guys have done total? So by this point, like thousands, right?
Just for Croatia, there was, I remember Ferg, who came on, has helped us a lot, which is one thing we haven't done with Planners and Brambles. We never hired salespeople, which I've noticed most people eventually put salespeople. We have a person who helps us do all the follow-up. We haven't outsourced that part. I remember him being like, you guys did like 1,200 calls a piece or something for Croatia, for 200 people.
We can't outsource that part. It's just impossible.
Yeah.
So if you look at those calls generally, like, are there patterns like if you sort of like step back, like, are there patterns or surprising things you've learned about people or people in business that might be interesting?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a pattern of the flow of the good ones and a pattern of the flow of the bad ones recognized real quick, right?
Yeah.
But the thing I would say is the offshoot is the amount of amazing. The reason there was 1,200 calls to 200 people is not because the mass of them are bad, because mass of them are busy. So we actually had a ton of people who come, they just can't come that day or whatever. As we've met so many great people because of this, that maybe we're not making dollars from those calls, but we're making like a really cool relationship equity that then we can connect to other members. And like, there's this weird sort of chaotic goodness that comes out of it, because even if they didn't come to an event, we made a really good connection through Baby Bathwater, even though nothing happened.
Yeah, I've like referred business to people who've applied that want to come, but haven't been able to make one yet. But I've already given them business and know them on the phone because they have clients from me. Anyway, they couldn't make an event. So, and then I try to, like, if I can help somebody, even if they don't go, even if I don't invite them, I try to help them in some way. Because you don't want to you want to help them out. And even if somebody's not right for the event, you can tell, like, great person, but not a Baby Bathwater person, because there's not weird enough, let's say, or not extroverted enough, but great human, I'll help them all day. So it's not like you suck, you can't come. It's like, probably not for you. I just don't think you have a good time. But hey, you do this, you need to meet so and so and so and so. So they're not like out. We don't have that attitude.
There was a sales SOP I've tried to work with, like, Ferg on stuff, is that after a call, it's not just, here's your link to get signed up in your day, or sorry, it wasn't a good fit. It's, hey, I told you I'd connect you to X, Y, and Z because of you said this. So there's the network of people we've, brought into our membership events. Then there's a whole network of people we've met who haven't been able to come or weren't the great fit, who still are being kept in this system. And like, hey, we need to connect this person to this person. Like, so there's this like little net that we can use to help people out. And usually you can at least make one connection for someone after a call.
So I have tons of not Baby Bathwater friends and business associates that just aren't right for this group. And they're awesome folks. They're just not right for Baby. It's not a value judgment. And they're glad not to come because it's not for everybody. And they're happy that I don't bug them about coming because they don't want to come. So it's all good.
And that might be an interesting filter, and maybe I'm just hearing this, which is, can you already make a connection for them, or are you already thinking of making a connection for them? Because if you're not doing that, it's probably not the right fit.
Right.
So that's like, we don't have a checklist or like a SOP for getting people into this or not, but it's generally a gut feel of, if you can't do something for them from an hour long phone call or whatever, then it's not probably a good fit.
The worst thing for us is if somebody come to an event and have it not be the best thing they ever did. So that's not good for anybody. So if there's somebody that I know, like it's probably not going to be great for them. What do I don't, and then somebody says, "How is Baby Bathwater?" The last thing I want is somebody going, "It's okay." I don't want that shit. So we really, it's not even about like, are they a fit? Is can we really help them? If they're not gonna, it's not gonna jazz them up. It's not good for us either. Or
the chicken and egg thing is funny though. Like at the beginning, I don't know who else coming to each thing. And then about halfway through, I know who's coming. Like, oh, you're definitely going to come because X, Y, and Z are going to be there and this and that. In the beginning, it's like the first people sign up, and then you're layering on, and I'll kind of chase little rabbit holes. Oh shit, we have way too many people, and you come. Now we need some more people on this side. We have too many service people, and so it kind of prioritize making sure it's a heterogeneous stew versus just everybody being the same.
Yep.
And I've seen this in a few people I know, which is like, or your brain sort of like always like looks at like connections or like this people would be a good fit with this person.
Yeah.
Like where do you think that comes from? Or like, can you put that into rules or is it just like, is just there?
I think it's a personality thing. Because Hollis has it since the day I met him. I've always been like that. I don't know.
And I can tell you we're terrible. It's maybe what we're not. Good at that because we're not good at systems and processes and things that would make that work for a systems and processes person. Like,
it's like,
is all I know.
Well, you know, like the people, I'm not going to mention names, and they're not bad people, but they have the how to network books, and some people keynote on this shit. And then you meet them, and you're like, you're fucking awful. Like they're not naturals. And they have systems, and they do well, but it's never real. And I think I think Hollis is, I was throwing cake parties in high school. Like it's just, I think we've both always been doing this. And Hollis has a whole thing with this. Hollis puts together ski trips his whole life. Like ever since I met Hollis, he's always putting together groups of some kind, doing some cool shit. Just what he does.
And what you're saying, and you didn't specifically mention, but I know like you guys like look for like long-term fit because if someone comes for just one event and then they leave, you've almost like wasted your time.
A little bit.
Yeah. So once, let's say like you guys have like selected the people, how do you guys, and this is sort of like shifting to now with like communities are going to change because they're going to be more online. How do you guys think about event design and community design? In terms of, let's say, like people come, like what creates a good experience for them? And the reason I'm asking this is like, I want to create a community for creators. And if I put them in a Facebook group or a Slack group or whatever, like, what do I do next?
We are figuring that out. If we had answers, we'd be lying.
I would say that I think the problem is looking at tactics and tools before knowing the goals that you want to have like emotionally happen. Like, it's like you've got a book on how to start a community from someone who sells books on how to start communities. It'd say, first thing you do is you start a free Facebook group, then you move it to a paid Facebook group.
Yep.
Do that. It's more looking into like, we have a Facebook group, but I don't think it's the best solution. It was more like, how do we have people connect? It feels a little more of a social way. It's an extension of the event. It's funny you mentioned the switch too, now to more virtual, because our focus has been 99% offline and then 1% online. Now we're forced to sort of do it. I actually posted stats for this called how many things we've done online in a short period of time. It's a lot.
Good.
Now we're having to look at it, but I've always just viewed that as a way of keeping the offline thing rolling. Now it has to kind of stand alone. But I still just don't think I think it's more coming with a really clear thing of what you want to deliver, how you want to feel, and then trying to find whether it's Slack or Facebook. I can tell you Slack. I've interviewed a bunch of people about it. It feels too close to work because everyone's on their teams. Yeah. And then Facebook, a lot of really smart people are, not on it.
That's interesting. They like not looking at the tactics and looking at more how you want people to feel.
You see it. We're doing all these webinars. It seems people like it. We tried the Zoom bar room, kind of fell flat. So we're trying stuff. Some of it's people are taking to, some they aren't. So we don't have anything to teach on that. But we're in it like everybody else, trying to figure out the best way to use these tools and what our goals are. So we're
first year we built a whole custom website. Yeah. When we launched membership, but it got like no adoption. So
we're the wrong people to ask on that part.
That's interesting. I guess like taking off like the tools and tactics. Like, how do you guys think about how you want people to feel? And this could be like the events, the live events too, because I think that translates to online.
Yeah, I think there's the business and connection side, but then there's like the hospitality side. And I know I generally enjoy thinking about the hospitality side more than the other parts. I think people at this level are smart enough to find their business connection and they're learning through the content, the connections and things like that. But it's like, I don't want them to want for anything. I want them to take this little window of time that they've committed to and be able to get the most out of it by, that term in flow is a little too used, but to be in flow because you're not thinking about, I got to get a cab, I got to get my coffee, I got to get this. I want health stuff, party stuff, wellness things, hospitality, like all of it kind of figured out so they can just kind of flow through it and not have to worry about all the little things. When I go to a conference at a big hotel, I spend a lot of my time figuring out what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it versus just doing the thing I'm going to do.
I think back to the feeling, I want people to, besides being jazzed, obviously like it's all about experience, and I want people to feel more energized than before from the community and any interaction. But the main thing is trust and safety, which I think most groups don't do. So I think the most important part is the business is not, all these tactics to get people to do business aren't going to work. There's no safety, right? And that's all about the people and the rules. So what I want them to feel, whether they're at an event or not within the group, is that they're safe with other people, and that if they're not, they're safe to come to us with those things, and knowing there's not going to be, you're not a tattletale, because a lot of people don't want to tattle or don't want to do this, that we're all in it together. We're going to protect you. And of course, there are going to be people who slip through. We'll fix that. But I want people to feel safe. And that's the way business happens. That's the way friendship happens. And that's, without safety, none of the shit works, in my opinion.
Yeah, the safety is a big, broad term. I'm glad he brought it back to the actual question, which was feeling, right? I went to tactics. And the feeling of safety is huge. Like when you know someone's a sponsor for a reason to sell you something, you have a different conversation if you're there on equal footing just to actually help. I think it was Kurt Malley who pointed out the first time. He's like, this is crazy. This is like competitive giving. He's like, I can't even find out what people do or what they want from me because they're so interested in like learning about me. Like they truly are interested. And I think it's because there's that safe container of this is how, we used to use the term, the current is strong all the time because it started as a small group of like, 50 and then it slowly grew. But you would feel how they were acting towards each other. And it was very much geared towards how you can help.
Yeah, our biggest role is safety offline by far. And when we don't do it right, which we have slipped up, I mean, we try our best, that is the most damage done. So whenever we take our eye off the ball and we let things go that we kind of see, but we pretend not to see, which we do too. Everybody, we do that.
What's an example of that?
Just if somebody is like pitching and stuff, like we say, you're not here to sell members, those kind of things. And kind of happens and we see it and maybe you hear a comment, but you're like, like not really. And then all of a sudden, if we hear about it, it's a little murmuring, it's probably really big, but we don't see it. And so to not do it fast enough, then it happens like, oh, whoa, that person just, what the fuck? And then people don't trust the group as much because we allowed that. And then you've seen us, we come out and we fix it publicly, not humiliating the person, but we fix it. That's to show people that, sorry, and now you're safe. That's a lot of work. And that's the big work of the group.
It's a big thing with people with services in the group because we do such a good job creating safety and a feeling of, you can trust these people, but we're not, we can't be everywhere at every time and all these things. But if someone has a service, we've noticed they can come clean house
if we don't watch them.
In line with wanting to truly be helpful. You see the people with services that stay, they're not just in it to biz dev. Like if I had a marketing service or an accounting service or whatever, you could come into a group like this with a bunch of founders who just trust each other and have these elated experiences. You obviously can make a lot of money selling services, so it just needs to be checked.
Yeah, the danger is the intimacy is high because of the kind of peak experiences and the people are so nice. A couple people can mess things up. Like even little things, like I had a call this morning from somebody, and this is nothing bad yet, but I got to nip it, is they did a deal together. One of them invested $300K in the other and just pulled out for whatever reason. Who knows why, but now I know that now. And I'm going to see what happened. And instead of just acting like I don't know it, I'm going to know it. And nobody's in trouble. Now let's make sure nobody got weird. And then let's say that person who pulled out did it weirdly. Well, now people should know that, or maybe not. So it's digging in, being fair, and stopping these things from being weird before they happen. It's probably on the up and up. It's just knowing and making.
There's a bunch of really interesting internal rules that we don't have. We do have some rules. They're only ones that me and Michael follow as guidelines for us to keep it in check. This is like, we'll never sell the next thing at the event because I've seen that happen a million times. When I first started in marketing, that's how you close the back of the room, right?
It's the FOMO factory.
Right, because they're like, you have people in an elated experience. They have a false sense of safety, trust, and connection. And so we don't do that ourselves. We also don't take referral fees between people in the groups, because that's one of the quickest ways, I think, to drown out a community, is they feel like when they bought their ticket or bought their membership, that was the entrance fee for you to make more money on them. Now, we don't talk about that too much publicly or show that in any of our marketing, but it helps us keep things on the rails. And so we're hoping if we're keeping that standard, the other people who are jumping into the tub are going to hold a similar standard to themselves.
It's a challenge.
So that they can stay tight.
We have a word we want to, if we come out with people said, what will we teach? Like, we do a lot of business, we have a lot of other businesses together, and we do a lot of deals, and we have a thing called resentment inoculation. So we go into every deal and like, let's go into this. Like, how can we end up hating each other? We start with that. So you work backwards and you go, how can we resent each other later? And you don't do it until you've figured out ifs, ends on all that shit. So most people don't think about that. So we're trying to get people in the group when they do business together, because a lot of business happens. A lot of new companies start. Have you gone through a resentment inoculation process first before just getting together? Because usually people do business together, it's well-intentioned, but somebody doesn't do this, somebody doesn't do that. And now they hate each other, and then they say some bad thing. But let's stop that and start what can go wrong before it goes wrong, and have a plan so you don't hate each other.
Very similar to the lose to win is something we do a lot too. Because it's another long-term thing. It's like, oh, man, this guy's going to do a deal together. We could get 2% because we connected them. Or we could take nothing, and when they come back later and have an opportunity for us, or they join us, like, there's so much long-term stuff that's unpredictable. It all starts to compile. I've even sent gifts of, like advisory shares and things, because we've said no to what a logical transactional person would take a brokerage fee or things like that.
I love these little rules. I was actually talking to a mentor of mine who does something similar, where he'll start companies with people and like they'll offer him like some percentage, and he'll be like, actually, no, give me less, because it sets it up for the long term, and he knows he doesn't want to be involved long term. You mentioned people sort of like coming in and like taking advantage of the group, right? And like, again, without going into specifics, can you share examples of maybe when that's happened and how you deal with that? Because
they're all different.
In one case, like, you're bringing in these people and they're obviously like making friends, right? And then if someone comes in and has made a lot of friends in the group, and maybe like then they start doing this, how do you think about handling something like that?
So they're also contextual, because everybody has a different personality, and it's also how nefarious is it? Like, sometimes it happens and it's totally by accident, right? So you always get people that benefit, because there's people breaking rules unintentionally and people doing it intentionally, right? It's very different ways we deal. So if it's just like, oh, I didn't know, and it's real, just hey, and they're usually like, oh fuck, I'm sorry, and that's it. And then they usually don't do it again. So, and it's because sometimes it's our fault for not being clear, right? So that's easy, because usually they're cool and like, sorry, and they usually feel horrible, and then that's great. But the ones that are doing it, it's a slightly different intention, that's a warning, and then that's it. One more warning, and then they are escorted out. And then people
never get like struck with one mess up, right?
No
like,
way.
Oh, I told someone something right there, whatever. But it's when it reappears, and like, I would say one thing, and Michael does most of this work, is being diplomatic and finding out the facts and making sure before anything is taken, we're not just hearing one echoing little Nancy opinion over here without talking to Paul over here, right? Looking at it as a real light, like, whoa, there's a lot of facts here that this is probably not good for the group.
In the last one, I would call people up. I'd say, Baby Bathwater Investigation Services. People would laugh. And they kind of knew what I was going to call about. And I talked to over 20 people. And so, I get your fucking back straight. And because you don't want to, it's like the U.S. Constitution, like better innocent to proven guilty. You don't want to ruin somebody's reputation and, on a whim.
So I can tell you operationally, it's very costly, which is why the vetting process is so important, and referrals and all that, because when one of those happens, look, 20 calls, those could have been 20 calls for people to join instead of investigating facts and then sending someone money back.
That was at least a week, complete work week done.
And then it's also like 20 people who might now feel weirdly about the group if they're friends with the person or something along those lines.
What you usually find is those people generally didn't have the friends they thought. So what you'll find is that it's not just the behavior, that those people actually didn't have friends. So that's another thing, that you assume they're all friendly because you see pictures, and then you find out when you're investigating, it's like, oh, wait a second. Why didn't I know about this fucking 8 months ago? What, you all hated this person? Like, what? And then I'm a little peeved. So we're trying to get better at learning quicker. Without that last one should have been done a lot earlier. And that was our fault for not digging in. And we kind of saw it, but we pretended not to. And that's a consequence.
So long term, like, how are you guys thinking about that? Because like the question I had was, okay, let's say I put like 50 people in a group, right? And right now it's all going to be virtual. What are sort of like rules or like day-to-day things I have to do to make sure that like something like that doesn't happen, or people are having a great experience? Because one bad experience like can make them.
Well, actually, it's super hard at the beginning. Like, we were really militant the first couple of years because we were new, and it was like really like we were harsh,
and we were much looser on set. Like we might have 10 interviews and none of them worked out, and then we might let someone slip in because we just needed the dopamine hit of getting someone signed up, and then we saw the backlash of it, right? So we were looser. We had to be tighter on the rules because we were looser on the sales.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but our people ended up so good that we got a little lax on the rules because everybody was so cool, but then that was a mistake. So at the beginning, at least what we did, I don't know if it's the right way, we were pretty harsh. So because especially if it's virtual and you don't,
Yeah, Michael actually threw someone out and refunded them in the middle of an event, sort of publicly.
I'll buy your ticket fucking home.
So what was the reason for that? Or
it's arrogant.
And being transactionally selling.
There's more arrogance.
But
it's too early. It's too early to allow anybody like that. It's just yuck. So anyway, it didn't matter. But yeah, we were harsh at the beginning. But so if you're starting something where you're not, we've had interviews with people, and these are friends of friends. So at the beginning of these, you don't know these people that well. So that means the rules need to be really harsh because there's you don't know them well enough to give them flexibility. Right. So it all depends on the level of intimacy. And that could bite you in the ass because we kind of got there and then we forgot to be militant.
Right. But I do think it comes back to what we kind of defaulted to, is leaning more into the community for everything. Is that there's so many people we're not the people who are going to find out first.
Right.
If it's safe and they feel like we're not going to throw names under the bus and do things like that, then it's going to come back. We have good communication flow of people in the group where somehow we find out about stuff even though we're not present for most of those situations. We're tracking everything, and we're trying not to be too ruly because I don't want that. This is actually supposed to be a pretty outlandishly kooky group that's fun, and so we try to stay away from that. But you need to have that sort of trusted container so that the value is insane that people are getting, the amount of businesses that have started together and the trust they have when they make connections, but it has to be checked from time to time.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's almost this like duality of like keeping everything like fun and light, but also being really militant on like certain things of like.
It's a lot like the guiding world on the mountains and stuff. Like it's fun, it's light, you're jumping cliffs, you're skiing, you're doing all this. But as soon as anyone goes in that zone that could cause an avalanche to kill everyone, that person's getting green to the point where they never do it again, right? So like everything that's super fun has an edge that could go over pretty quickly if it's not checked.
Completely.
That's interesting. And you talked about like having like kind of like members, like going to members and stuff. So do you like have members in mind that you'll go and like ask these things, or do they come to you, or how do you guys think about that? Kind of like keeping a pulse on everything happening in the community.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you're saying like, how do we know what's going on?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like there's people who've been in it longer that know us better. Like you've been in it for a while now. You know us better and better and better. So yeah, there's the people we've known forever that we rely on more than others. Like the lady you just interviewed, Jenny, I'll mention her name. Like I've known Jenny 14 years now, way before Baby Bathwater. And then she's early. I go to Jenny a lot for advice, especially on things I don't know about. Because one, I just completely trust her. And I just know her better than everybody else. And Hollis has his too. So yeah, we have certain members that have been with us longer, or that even that we have relationships way before Baby Bathwater, that sure, I go to get a deeper pulse on things.
But it's for different reasons, right? There's some people like, hey, I just need to do a little sense making with you. Because there is no, like, I think why both Michael and I have like ADD, we want to do lots of random stuff. We look at our other businesses, we don't do anything more than like 3 years. Like that's the time, right? We've been doing this for almost 6. It's because there is no model. We're not following a playbook. There is no right or wrong turn. There's just turns. And so like, hey, we're thinking about going this way. I want to make some sense with you because you've been in here for a while. And then there's some people who are, I think, believe in the group and what it is way more than us or the team even does.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go to them for more like, I don't want to ruin what this is for you. If I decide to take this whole thing on a right-hand turn, then I'll pull that rug out.
Can you give an example of something where like maybe like you guys thought you were going to do it and then someone else was, one of those people were like, no, don't do it.
Good question. So, I mean, obviously we get excited about doing things like, well, it's not too content at all at any of the events, right? That's how people really want it. Or doing the small little things that, because the diversity is huge. So, I had Ferg make these stats where we've already done a bunch of these little like meetings in Boulder that are very informal and more geared towards just business. Mm-hmm. There's some people who love that. And there's some people who just want to stay up and party and talk about life and listen to music. And so, but sometimes we get our priorities of what we want to spend our time doing. We have to remember that there's pieces of this that have been built that we need to respect everybody's thing for it. Some people are in different stages where they really want to be here to learn and connect on the business side. Some people are more here to sense make about life, and we got to respect not taking any of this away.
It's also contextual. Like you saw like that email, but Joe McClensky, like Joe's been in a couple of years. Was I that close to Joe? No. I was like, wow, like how's this guy in our group? I was almost like, what the fuck's he doing here? Yeah. He's too good. But then when this Corona thing hit, I relied on him a lot. We became good friends because he does this stuff. I mean, he's at this level and he's consulting to like the New York Fire Department and stuff, like big deal stuff. And all of a sudden I found myself calling him every day and then relying on this guy and then I became good friends. So it's also contextual who we rely on because he was the guy in the group I looked at. Like, this guy I can trust. And then he came through with big time and helped us sense make this whole thing. So it also depends on what we need and who's qualified to help us.
That makes sense. And I remember
I do like that it's gearing more towards like a family feel than it is a business feel, where it's like you also want people to be able to shoot you straight in the eyes when you need it, which is that change. The beginning, like it was me and Michael's people we met who did marketing and had businesses and were trying to make profit. But over 6 years, it's evolved and it's still crazy. Very much entrepreneurially focused. Like that's the core. But it's more like keeping people on the real. Hey, you said you were going to do this. Did you do it? And like, is that the right decision? I want to check you on. They're starting to get to know each other better and have that trust to do that, which is like, it's like a mix of things that you get in little chunks other places all consolidated to one.
We have nonprofits now. We never would have thought in a million years we have
sustainable ranches and hotels.
Yeah, the people in the group are way better than we are. That was the cool part that we didn't envision. Like, the quality of the people are so much better humans than we are as people. So we can't even be leaders if we wanted to be now. It'd be impossible.
I mean, we had Ron on and he's just amazing. All the work that he's done and everything. If you guys were to do like a content session at Baby Bathwater, 80-20 of like creating and running a successful community, what else should I be thinking about or asking about that I haven't?
Successful. I mean, I don't.
It's funny because Cynic, who is like the one who's driven a lot of the formal content stuff because he asked for it and that's the thing he loves. And me and Michael gear away from it because like it's kind of what you asked earlier. I was like, well, there's like a personality type that does some things one way and does it this way. It's super hard for us to teach it because it's really more about being comfortable with uncertainty and be like, we're going to try this for a little bit and kind of self-check it and come down this lane. Like, I don't really know what.
I hate the word successful too. I'm averse to that word.
What's a better word?
We actually just lost like $2 million.
Yeah, then financially, this is not a successful community.
What would be a better word then? Like think about community. If it's not
I don't know. I mean, like I love
private community.
I love doing it. I guess the thing is like. If there's any, because who knows? Everything's so contextual. Like, I think also, like, I love doing it every day. I don't consider it work.
It actually, so this is real. It's like you actually want to do it. Like we mentioned, we've never done anything for more than 3 years on our other ventures. We have a ton of other side businesses that we put that actually are scalable companies that can make
real money. And stuff.
This is not a scalable business.
No,
we put 99% effort into it because we truly enjoy the game of playing this game, and it's everything. Like you can see, our team loves it. We love it. We should be focusing on our consumer product business and our marketing company. Yeah. We give that the most minimal effort compared to the thing that we like that is unscalable.
Yeah, I never want to be talking about how to how to create this, because then it's like, because I think you have to do something 20 times to say you know how to do something. So it's like we're we're a variable, we're n equals 1. So this is just one experiment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as far as how to enjoy having it, I think you got to really dig. I mean, you got to really dig people.
Yeah.
So I mean,
well, Andy bought in, and it comes back to this. I guess a repeating theme is the long term. Michael and I are both on the same page that we really want this to be around past maybe even us, right? Like I want it to be a whole different dude who's old and got a cane and being funny dancing with all my friends, because I had like high school, I had college, and then I had like my first entrance into entrepreneurship, and I met a bunch of friends, and a lot of them were shady, and I don't want to grow old with them. And I wanted to, like, how do I continue having a social scene that gathered? Like, I love going to weddings and seeing my friends and doing that. I want that kind of feeling constantly with people who get me and help me.
We could answer, I think, how to be happy running a community. That's the only thing I think I could answer.
Sure.
It's, I think you got to love people, like people, and you got to recruit the people you want to be around, and then treat them cool and make sure you like your partner, and then make sure you find somebody like a Cynthia who can actually do things. And then you can be happy.
Those things get super weird a lot. Like,
that's about
weird nights with little sleep and all that. But Michael's point, like, I don't think if someone's thinking about starting a community and you're looking at a model to make profit, and like it's a bad model.
It's not a good model.
And if you're looking at them as customers to move through an ascension of some kind,
fuck that.
You're gonna not enjoy it. If you look at the rate in which these communities live and their cycle, it's pretty poor when they follow these models. Ours is you can ask our finance guys, not a very good model.
No, they don't.
But we love it, and there's a profit in loving what you're doing, I guess, and enjoying it, and all the connections and stuff.
It is fun to watch the finance guys just shake their heads, and we're like, it's okay. But
if we want to do it anyway, we'll figure it out. Like, I guess we do our Carney internet stuff. On the side.
But how to be happy running one is if you like a certain type of person, try to get as many of those people in your group and try to make them happy, and then find somebody who can organize if you're shitty at organizing and running things. That's really it. I mean, the other stuff, we're just experimenting too. Like there's no, what I'm saying? Like there's probably a million ways to do it. But I think if you don't have that, you're never going to have fun doing it. And if you're just doing it for the money, great. You're not going to be happy.
It's funny. I never really thought about it in these terms. But now that I look at my favorite moment of the event cycle was the one that they lost, I think, close to $700,000 on the first island event. Because I didn't realize it cost so much money to bring shit on ferries and do all that. I like going to war with our team and everybody coming and being a part of something that was almost about to explode at all times. Like that was probably one of my favorite parts, but it wasn't because we did a launch that worked out really well.
But that was
the second one was profitable. That was great, but it takes time. Yeah.
And then I'm hearing like the experimentation is so key. I love what you said about the ascension. Yeah, because like you go to events and you're almost like, what am I going to be sold next? And like you're like, we're not doing that.
That's when you feel safe, right? When you know that that's not going to happen. Or else you kind of, as an entrepreneur, have a spidey sense. Like, I know, like, my parents, when they see me looking at marketing materials, like, oh my God, you get what's happening. Someone's like, no, that guy's just trying to sell this. Or whatever.
You see it all.
It's like so clear, right? Like what's going to come next and everything.
We assume people are smart. We have smart people. So even if we tried that shit, hopefully it wouldn't work anyway.
Which is why I don't give people workbooks and tell them what to do. I'm like, on my interview calls, I'm like, I assume from knowing I can give you a little guidance of a few people need some content that I think will be relevant, but way better how to navigate this thing than me saying, wake up at 7, do this. Like you might need some rest from your family and your business. So you sleep until lunch and then you go to one content section and party because that way you need it. Or you're deep in the grind and you need to go to all the customer acquisition thoughts. You just launched a new product.
Love that. So switching gears a bit, one of the comments I got when I was doing research from the group about what to ask about was, Mike's like, it's like how you guys are so different, right? You're almost like yin and yang. So there's a few questions around that. Like one is like, how do you guys decide if you like disagree on people to bring into the community? Like that's more tactical.
We give each other free reign on that. So on the inviting to an event, we don't ask each other. I take it, he takes it. I trust him. And then on the membership, we all get together, and it's pretty unanimous. It's not just Hollis and me. So once
the whole team is involved in that too.
Yeah, once they go to an event and everybody meets them, it's a whole team, and we call their members. So that's
actually really fun. It's like we call it what is it? Football, reviewing the film. So after the event and everyone's gotten sleep, which is another reason we tell everyone at the event, don't buy anything from anyone, don't do any deals, don't get married to each other, don't do anything until you've had some good sleep and you're back and you have your real life problems again. So we wait, and then we pull up the list of everybody. And we've talked to the shuttle drivers and the cooks and the service people. And honestly, I'd say that's one of the most telling is if anyone was rude to service people, they're out, right?
Or if they're mean to Natalie or Ferg or the people they don't think matter, fuck them. They're gone.
Right.
I love that.
So I think that's a big one. But reviewing the film is fun to go through all the details of it. And it's pretty comical and fun. It seems to be what I want to know most about.
Every once in a while, we'll have a person like one of us once, and then we'll take a bet. And then Hollis, like we had one that's in now that we're very happy with. And Hollis like, oh no. And I was like, I'll fucking.
They were 50-50. There's one that I was betting against. It's a superstar now. And there's one that I bet against Target's gone now. Yeah.
No, I'll be like, I said, I'll put my name on it. And then if that person sucks, you can just yell at me. So I'll take a risk. Because it's social risk. Because then it sucks to want somebody and then they do suck. And then the whole thing, I told you so.
Answer is it's a unanimous decision that we go through, but it's on someone if you vouch for it and other people don't agree.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I vouched hard for somebody really hard and he turned out great, but I had to fight for him. It turned out wonderful.
And this one's for Neeraj. It was a very specific question about the vetting process. I would love to know about the vetting process from first-time event guest to membership invite and the ratios for guests to invites to yeses. It's very specific.
So I think like 1 out of 4 people who go to an event might get invited to membership. People make the call.
I would put one caveat on it is the process is getting better from the beginning to the end. So the numbers are tightening up. At the very beginning of this community starting thing, it was very small. And the amount of people even invited back to just another event or something was like less than 50% because we sucked at vetting it the first year of this. Now, every year it's getting tighter and tighter. So it's an evolutionary process for sure.
Like 1 out of 4-ish that get invited. And then the people we invite, I guess we never looked at that. We do get no's, but usually it's I can't do it this year. They're not, very rarely has it been a no. It's been I can do it next year with finances. I don't know. Berg might have that, but it's pretty high of when we invite that they do it. Maybe 1 out of 2 that we invite buys that year. And if you look that over the next year or two, it'd be more.
I would say there's 2 factors. It's not just us playing God or whatever on this, which we hate. Internally, it's a psychological issue we're having to deal with. Is some people just don't have the time and energy to it. So like on a front-end interview call, I think we have a list of over 170 people I want to come to an event, but it's never worked out for dates. I would say the biggest hurdle to our model of getting people is that the right people have friends and family and businesses and lives, and it's super hard to lock that down. I find once they come, generally they make the time, but that first one's tough.
I was asking like how many people who come to an event do we invite to, 2 memberships? That's like 1 out of 4. And then how many people do we invite actually buy membership? Yeah. I'm not sure on that one for the people we invite to membership, but I imagine it's like over half. And then the ones that they'll often come later, but it's usually a time or a money thing, not a no, I don't want to be in it.
We're also not too aggressive on our sales process. Yeah.
That's another thing that won't work.
The stat I do like is the amount they renewed from
the renewals.
Last year was great. It was like over 98% or something.
And that's really what matters, right? Another thing I was curious to ask you guys about, and this is a general question.
100% next year because it's free.
So you guys have like been co-founders for a long time, and you guys have been public about working with Esther Perel as your business therapist. Can you talk about sort of like that experience and what you've learned about yourselves and each other and working together from that? Because to me, that's just like super interesting. When I first heard that you guys were doing that, I was like, that's really freaking smart.
We used her a lot more at the beginning. I mean, she doesn't really teach you about yourself. She just teaches you how to work with the other person. So it's not like, and the biggest thing she says, because you do that, I do that. And we interviewed, so her big thing.
There's been milestones of highlights she's given us. And one of them was, because you do this, I can do that. That was a huge one I made for Michael and myself. And actually,
can you explain that? Like, what does that mean?
It was like, so say you're getting angry because maybe I'm putting in more hours than you, or you're putting in more hours than me doing this thing. But you have to recognize that you can't do the thing you're doing. That person's not doing the thing they're doing. And so no matter how much time, energy, money are going into those, if it's not perfectly balanced on a spreadsheet, it psychology doesn't work that way. You have to let that person do that.
This comes from her Mating in Captivity book. Her whole thing on relationships. You shouldn't be intertwined. It's unhealthy in any relationship to be intertwined. The whole idea is that the goal in a relationship should be to free the other person to be that other person. So that's her advice to couples or anybody would be, no, you're not in it to grow deeper. You're in it to give that person freedom to be that human being they are. And so instead of me going, well, I'm doing content and stuff, which I don't really enjoy. And so I can do that. And then if Hollis can go do his music thing or whatever. And then you're like, wow, I'm doing this so that person could be free, as opposed to I'm just doing this and I hate it. So then you're like thinking about the other person and wow, because I'm doing this, they get to do that and feeling good about that person. And then you're on their team. That was the biggest insight to me. And we're working with Hollis or anybody else now is, because I do that, they get to be this person. And because of that person, my company's going to do way better because they're happier and they're going to do cooler shit. Like Hollis used to do all the music. I'd suck at it anyway, but because I do some of the other stuff, he gets to do that. And then our events rock because he gets to be excited about that. And he's free to do it. And it's what he was meant to do. And then everybody like, wow, you guys got great music. I got nothing to do with it. And because I do some drudgery, music's great. So that kind of thing.
I love that.
Well, on the point of Esther, like it's funny, she's one thing, but we do a lot of stuff because we're running an interesting business together. We're spending a lot of time, but we'll have binge nights just to yell at each other about the things that are driving each other crazy.
Yep.
She's been very helpful at pivotal things where we need a opinion that's trusted and knows all the details. Right. So like there was a group that was creating itself inside our group that we viewed as dangerous and we called it out to everybody, but then it kept growing and growing. We thought we might be wrong. She had a great sound bites to give us to go back and work with that. When me and Cynthia started dating in the company, she helped create a framework for that. When I moved away from the office, she helped with that. So it's basically, we've used and we actually do this not just with her, with many people in the group. We were making a big decision and we're worried about just being in our echo chamber. We're we do like having opinions that we respect to give us feedback.
And that's so important, like turning into like outside people for counsel.
Very.
And this one's from Jenny.
Uh-oh.
This is a really important question. Who would win in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu match?
I don't even know what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is, so probably not me.
Yeah, I'm old. He'd wear me out. I think I'd probably pass out after 30 seconds. I think Hollis once I just wore out.
I guess whoever has McCallum on their team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whoever goes and like pays McCall for coaching.
So I know we're coming up in time. So last two questions, and this is one actually Zion suggested I start asking, which is, for you guys, what does it mean to be a conscious creator? Since that's the name of the show.
We're unconscious creators. I don't know. It's a weird frame. So I guess
we actually are pretty unconscious. Like our words like polluted, right? Like it's a pretty word. But what we kept talking about is like we have really good checks and balance systems so that we can kind of be crazy and have wild ideas and try them, but they usually don't. If they're too wild and crazy and they're going to hurt anyone, they don't make it to the finish line. Like together, Michael and I are more than willing to try things that are very counterintuitive. Which is like that book club we're doing in the group right now, Alchemy. A lot of it makes sense where it's like, let's do things that look completely costly to us, like giving away membership or posting on an island or doing weird things.
You have to get us access to Roy Sutherland. Come on.
I don't know him, but I want to meet him too. Like, his book is amazing.
It's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
We read it. We're like, this is the way we think. We can't articulate it, but I love the way he thinks. And it's kind of just don't do the obvious. Don't be rational.
Yeah, and maybe that is the answer, is like to be conscious, like have the checks and balances so you can be completely crazy with what you want to do.
Right, which has happened from having a community that we're part of, not leaders of, and having a team that we respect their opinions and stuff as well. But, one pattern I've noticed in the back of my mind as we talked about this is like, we just don't follow the playbook of other things because it's predictable and you know where it's going to go. I would like to continue to be unpredictable, and I think that keeps the people excited. Like for 2021, I don't know what it is yet. We're going to come up with something that is completely unpredictable and different and irrational that is not seen in other groups. And let's spend more time on that than,
Yeah, it'd be really boring to know what we're doing.
And speaking of unpredictable, as you guys sort of like think of the future of Baby Bathwater and with everything going on, what's next and where can people go to learn more? I'm glad I've done this interview, because if anyone asks me about Baby Bathwater, I'm just going to be like, go listen to this.
We made you a page. It'll be up Tuesday. So you know the URL. You have a special page.
babybathwater.com/creators, right?
Yep. That's a special page for you. It's not so secret page, just for you.
Not so secret anymore.
Yep.
Yeah, there'll be some kind of special thing for people who listen to this that we have to come up with. It's going to be fun. I mean, this new normal, whatever it is after this, it's funny, talking about events made me forget that we're living in it for almost 40 minutes now. It's been great.
Yes.
I think there's going to be stages where we come out of it, but I think people are going to want connection and community more than ever. We have like 6,000 engagements or something since the pandemic started in the Facebook group, where before that would have taken a year to achieve.
Yeah,
it's wait to go online. But like the sense of community online is getting stronger. But all I want to do is open the doors again. Yes. But I think there'll be phases we have to go through to get to that.
Yeah,
there might be smaller events that are more spread out, right? So we just don't know.
Yeah, and I think what you said about the sense of community, or connection community, I think whenever I even talk to people who have an audience now and they're like, what does my audience want? I think that's where everything is going towards, is like people want sense of community, connection, because there's so much loneliness and all that.
Yeah, well, I think where we got lucky, we didn't plan for this. We're not preppers in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
We got lucky that we started an event thing first when we could have events. Then we switched to a membership because finance people explained to us that it was a smarter model to do, so we'd be stable. But because of the membership, now we had something to do during the time when we couldn't have events. And so when it comes back around, I don't think you can have the foundation. It's very hard to build a virtual foundation. Like, I don't think it would be how it is if we didn't have that first step. Like, we would just be tooting a horn that shouldn't exist if we said, oh, we've got this great virtual community, but it's only because they've spent so much time getting to know each other. I think it's hard to skip that step.
That's a great point.
It's a weird word. You can't create a community. Anyway, it has to kind of happen. Like, no community. Yeah. Then you're like a planned community in the suburbs, right? If it's not really communities, you might as well be like Del Web. I mean, those suck. So
I know.
You try to architect a construct a community, it'll never happen. That's not how they happen.
A little bit, yeah, and be willing to change its direction pretty quickly. Because
put up a couple sheetrock houses, a strip mall, call it a community, right? I think that's what a lot of people are doing right now online when they're saying community. They're not really creating.
Yeah, and that might be the perfect place to end. Thank you guys for doing this.
Thank you.
Super insightful for me, and hope you guys enjoyed it. And
thank you.